So this is the Fractal Design R5 Define Mid-Tower computer case. As you can see, it has a window. It's black. It has a power button, 4 USB ports, reset button, microphone socket and a headphone socket in the front. The door opens to show ventilation and some CD slots there. This door I'm actually going to take apart and change over to the other side because it can be opened 2 ways. So I'm going to do that. Around the back we have a fan, the open slot for the motherboard, the PCI Express slots, little spot for the power supply down the bottom. It's all black and it's a very good case. So let's start building. So the first thing I've done is I have removed the door and I've changed the direction of the door so it opens this way. That's because my computer will be on the right hand side, so I'll have to open it this way so I can access the CD drive easier. There's actually a dust filter on the front there. Oh, I think it's soundproofing material actually. So now we'll take the case apart and have a look inside. Okay, so this is inside the case. There's a spot for the motherboard. There's a fan there. There's a CD bays and 8 hard drive bays. There's 2 SSD hard drive mounts on the back. There's another fan near the hard drive bays in there. And there's the cables where the motherboard connects to. So I've installed the power supply, an EVGA Supernova 650G, 650 watt power supply. I've installed the standoffs for the ATX motherboard. They're those gold coloured screws you can see protruding from the case. So the next step is to get the motherboard out and start putting the CPU, the RAM and the memory card on the motherboard. So there's the motherboard. The first step will be to install the CPU into the motherboard. The second step will be install the memory into the memory slots, and the third step will be to install the SSD solid state drive into the motherboard as well. After that, the motherboard gets mounted into the case. Okay, I've got the CPU installed, no trouble there. The stock cooler already had thermal paste on the heatsink, so it's just a matter of placing it, pushing the pins down and plugging the cable into the motherboard. So the next thing is to install the memory in the memory slots. So this is a memory. It's Corsair Vengeance memory, built to be overclocked to 3.2 gigahertz. There's 4 16GB chips. I did my research and it should be able to be compatible with the motherboard, and they should all fit. And they also have a red LED that lights up when they're in the motherboard and the power's turned on. So they go into there. So that was easy. That's the 64GB of Corsair memory installed. Just a matter of lining up the pins and slotting it in the slot till it clips. The next thing is to install the SSD drive into the motherboard. So the 500 gigabyte M2 SSD drive is installed. Just required a spacer and a screw that came with the box. So everything is done that I can do without putting it in the case. So the next step is to install the input-output plate on the back of the case and then mount the motherboard in the case. Alright, wasn't too hard. The motherboard is snugly fitting into the case. The panel for the input-output board is looking good. The screws are lining up to the holes, so all I have to do is put the screws in, 8 screws in total, and once I do that, I'll start connecting the cables and install the graphics card and the wireless network card. Okay, so I've installed the graphics card and I've installed the wireless network card. So all that's left is to install the hard drives and optical drive and then run the cables from the power supply to the motherboard. Okay, so the hard drives are installed and the cables are all connected. The fans are in the motherboard. The cables are all neat and tidy around the back. There. So now I guess it's time to turn it on and boot into the BIOS and check if everything is configured correctly. And if that's all right, then I can install Windows on it. Okay, the computer's powered on and the monitor's working. It's telling me the hard drives are working, the keyboard's connected, there's memory. So that's the computer there. And it's powered up. The RAM modules are flashing their LEDs and the graphics card's all lit up. So next stage is to get into the BIOS and see if anything needs changing. If not, I'll be able to install Windows hopefully. So I've gone through the BIOS settings and tweaked them and they're all good. I've booted from the USB and now I'm installing Windows. So the USB's in, Windows is installing. It's all going good at the moment. So the next step is to install the software and drivers.